and welcome to SolidWorks Live. We're excited to have you joining us here today, where we're going to be talking about the 3D Experience platform for SolidWorks engineers. So I encourage you to join the conversation by participating with us on live.solidworks.com, on Facebook, where you can like us and add comments there, as well as on YouTube, where you can subscribe to us. Likewise, if you use the hashtag SWLive on Twitter, we'll have folks who are engaging with you throughout this live broadcast and some of the questions we may answer here at the end of the broadcast. So today, to talk about this conversation, well, first of all, I'm Jeremy Rignaris. I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm joined by Mark Barrow from the United Kingdom and Michael Steves from Seattle, Washington. Welcome, guys.
Thanks.
So we got a lot of exciting stuff we're going to cover here today. We're going to be showing SolidWorks users how they can take advantage of the 3D Experience platform, right?
That's right. So what we've put together is a kind of a collaborative design scenario to take you through how we can all work together using the platform. So we're going to kick off with showing you how you can basically collaborate and share design ideas using design communities. And then we're going to take a SolidWorks design that's in our local machine, the SolidWorks, and then we're going to show you how we can move that data up onto the platform and then actually share it within our design community.
And then I'm going to take that data. You're going to assign some tasks to me, and I'm going to show some of the new 3D design apps that you can use right inside of a web browser to start doing your design work from anywhere, virtually on any device. And as I get done with that, I'm going to need some help, Michael.
Yep. So I'll be able to do some concurrent validation, run some simulations right from your data that's stored on the 3D Experience platform, and be able to share my results easily, leveraging the platform as well.
And we'll want to finish this story. We're going to work within the platform, but we still have a need to leverage the entire ecosystem of SolidWorks products, right?
That's right. So at the end, we'll close the loop and show how we can bring all those design changes back through into SolidWorks and then use the power of the SolidWorks ecosystem to work with downstream processes all the way through to manufacture.
And then when we wrap up, we're going to be joined by Aaron Kelly, Portfolio Product Manager, who's kind of going to talk about what's next for the 3D Experience platform. So we hope you enjoy this. We're going to be covering a lot of stuff today. Again, engage with us on social media. We'll have people answering those questions as we get in there, but it's important to point out, we just mentioned, we're located all over the world. And so we're really going to see today why the 3D Experience platform is really valuable, whether you're all in one location or located around the world. So Mark, why don't you start out by telling us how we get started in the 3D Experience platform?
Okay, so what we're going to look at first of all is basically how we can collaborate and innovate and share design ideas using design communities. So we're going to be working completely within a browser. There's no software installed locally for this. So let's take a look at how we work, with design dashboards and how it looks when we first get into there. So when you first log into the platform, you've got your kind of own personal dashboard that gives you a deep insight into everything that's really going on within your design project. So it's just highly a configurable environment. You can configure it using a series of web apps that make up the 3D Experience. And the way into your design community is using the 3D Swim app. So you can see here, we've got our own SolidWorks Live community. So we've been kind of thrashing out some ideas. So we're going to be working on a new design for a television remote control. So you can see we've got some ideas in here. We've run a poll to decide what type of design we want to work on. And one of our colleagues already, Jan, has produced our PCB, our initial kind of concept design, which we're going to start with. So Jeremy, why don't you show us how we're going to create blog posts and share ideas?
Sure. Before I do that, though, just to make sure, folks who aren't aware, we've been doing live events for a little while. Back in September, we did Connecting the Disconnected, where Mark Schneider and I kind of went through how do you set up one of these dashboards and create a customized experience. So, but to add my post, it's like any other social media platform that you'd work on. I can go in here and create a variety of different types of posts. As you mentioned, we have polls, we have questions, things like and ideas. I'm going to create a basic post where I want to attach some media. I've created a sketch or a mock-up of what I think this remote control might look like as I go through here. And once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and publish it. And it's immediately available for everybody on our team. And that doesn't just mean design team. That could be other people in different parts of the organization.
Yeah, I know. I was a little excited about it because I'm thinking, all right, which part am I going to validate first?
Okay, so once Jeremy's created that post, as we can see there, let's switch back to my view, my own dashboard. So I can see Jeremy's post straight away. And then I can go in and add comments to it. So we can kind of go back and forth, fresh out ideas. So it's just a great way of being able to communicate and collaborate just using the 3D Experience. So what we're going to do next is look at how we can then go from SolidWorks and take SolidWorks data and then share that within the design community. So we've got our initial concept design that's been created for our TV remote. So I have that inside SolidWorks. So what I'm going to do first of all is from the dashboard, it's actually just launch SolidWorks. So the dashboard is your kind of one-stop shop for everything that you're doing on a daily basis as you're designing. So you can see we can just launch SolidWorks, and then I've got my initial component layout of the remote control in SolidWorks. And at the moment, this is just sitting on my local hard drive. So I want to get this in the platform and get it as part of a design community so everyone can work on it. So that's just a case of coming over to the SolidWorks task pane and just literally saving it. And that's going to upload all that data into our design community.
Yeah, Mark, this looks and feels kind of like PDM. I know I've used a variety of PDM services and software before, but I normally have to set up a server and have to do some work with IT to get all that set up. What does it look like for this?
So for this, there's no IT overhead. We're working within the cloud. So we're not having to install lots of kind of heavy software that we've got to, first of all, install and maybe keep upgrading and maintaining. And what you can see here in the task pane is now we've uploaded it. It's taken our custom property. So if you've got attribute information on your SolidWorks parts, that automatically gets populated into the platform. And you can also set up your own workflows. So if you like to work through a series of stages on a design, you've got your own configurable workflows in here. So you can see these parts are set to in work.
So you said that you save these to the 3D Experience platform. We were just in the web browser, and then we were desktop. So if I go onto the web browser, can I see this now?
Yeah, that's right. So let's go over to my my dashboard again. And then if I click on it, I've got another tab set up for design review. So you can see I've got my SolidWorks design data as well as some other files in there. So we can have other documents, PDFs, Office documents associated with design in here that we're all part of it. And then it's just a simple drag and drop to add it to 3D Play, and now it's a totally interactive environment. You can interrogate the design, you can see we can section it, you could explode it out, add markup to it, and you can really kind of dig down and get to understand.
A lot more interactive than just a PDF or an image or something like that. But sometimes you just want to create an image and share it with people, right?
That's right. So we've already looked at the design community and some of the posts that were in there. So if I just want to share maybe a screenshot and show everyone the new design, then straight from 3D Play, I can create a blog post. So you can see here, I'm just going to go and add some comments. We've got our screenshot, so it's just a few clicks to do this. And then now that's posted in the SolidWorks Live community. So within my design dashboard, again, I've got another tab here that shows me the community. And you can see there's my blog post.
We have not sent one email yet, right?
That's right. And I can see you've added some comments as well in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know we're all running this from the browser here. I was able to add my comment from my phone. But I think one other thing that's interesting here is this has been our collaboration space, right?
Absolutely.
And
we use this as a team to actually collaborate now.
Yeah, so like when you say blog post, it's not like blog post to everybody. It's like, no, this is our proprietary design work right now.
Yeah, you can see the folks in our community right down there and the members, the people that we're working on this together with.
So how would you add someone?
You just go to add members and find them and invite them to that community. It's really easy, yeah. So work, Mark, we have, we're a design team, as we can see here. A lot of us have different tasks that we're going to do. You're going to kind of play a role of manager here, right?
Yeah, that's right. So I'm going to take the role of the project lead. So what we're going to do next is look at tasks. So using the collaborative tasks part of the 3D Experience platform, we can use this to give us an overall view of the project and everything that's happening on the project. So you can see I've got a number of tasks in there. Just by selecting one, I can get information on that task. And that initial phase of a design is done. So to move it to finished or done, I can just literally drag and drop it. So as simple as that. So I'm going to put you to work, Jeremy. I'm going to give you a new design task to do for the next phase. So I can give it a title, and then we can go in and add a bit more information about this task. So we could give it a due date, for example. So you can set up a full schedule of all of these different tasks. We'll put a description in, and then I'm going to add you to it. So I can go further down and assign team members to tasks.
But I need these files you just created.
Yeah, that's right. You don't have to go searching everywhere for it. So I can do a quick search in here, just literally by typing. You see it's searching our design community, and then I can literally just add that assembly to the task.
Okay. So how am I going to get this task given to me now?
So what I'm going to do is once I've saved that task, I'm going to kick it off just by dragging it to in progress. So now you're going to get a notification that you need to go in and do some work.
All right, let's take a look at what that looks like. So I get an email or a notification from the email. I can click on the hyperlink provided. It's going to launch my browser, bring me right into the same community where I can see the tasks that you've assigned to me as well as some of my own. You can see here that I can see all the information you've added, but what's really cool is I can take that link to that file and drop it right inside of one of my 3D design apps that we're going to take a look at here in a little bit. So it saved me this whole process of, hey, Jeremy, you need to work on this file. You just gave it to me, and I'm able to get started on it. So one of the things I want to take a look at next are the concept of these design apps that live inside of the browser. We're all familiar with SolidWorks tools today that run on your desktop. Sometimes I don't have access to that desktop. Sometimes I need to fulfill some niche workflow things that I might want to do. And these design tools are going to be great for handling this. Today, we have two of them that are on the platform called Xshape and Xdesign. But in the future, expect to see more of these to solve different challenges. Rendering on the cloud, maybe doing model-based definition things. Think of like sheet metal tasks, stuff like that. So we're going to take a look at a really simple workflow of kind of working on the concept of this remote control. So let's go ahead and dive in and take a look at what Xshape looks like. So I'm going to start with your SolidWorks desktop design in Xshape, and I'm going to add a new component to it. We're going to use what's called subdivisional modeling or sub-D modeling. And I start by just simply dragging and dropping a primitive shape out into my workspace and kind of sizing this up, what I think the remote control's overall size is going to look like. You can see I just grab these drag handles and it's very fluid. This is a very different way of thinking compared to traditional SolidWorks parametric modeling techniques. You'll see everything I do here is just very click and drag, make adjustments. So I've got the overall shape. Let's take a look at some of those adjustments. I'm going to grab all these vertices and I'm just going to take this drag handle and I'm going to start making adjustments. And it's going to maintain all that curvature continuity throughout that entire shape as I make these subtle changes. But we can also capture intelligence. For example, maybe I need to preserve symmetry across the center line of this remote control. So I'm going to select that center plane and then we'll make some adjustments to this. So for example, on the back of the part, I'm going to go ahead and shrink that, and we'll see that it'll update live on both sides of the part, and we'll do the same thing to the front. So we've been doing some very conceptual dragging, but maybe I want to get a little bit more detailed and start really refining the shape. I can toggle over to the way I'll manipulate this using what's called the cage manipulator. And this gives me a really fine adjustment to the overall shape of this, where I'm going to kind of really tweak and modify the front part of the shape of this. So we'll make a few last minute changes here, but one of the things we want to start thinking about is kind of where that landing pad, where my thumb's going to go. And to do this, I need a better way to select stuff. So the filters allow me to change the way I select and grab the data on screen. So in this case, I use loop selection to really hone in what I want to make adjustments to. But I can change that on the fly. For example, if I want to use face selection, just change that. We'll create an indentation. And you can see here in a really short period of time, we've really created a nice concept of what this shape will look like. But I still need that island for my thumb. So what's really cool about Xshape is I can actually add multiples of these primitives or shapes to this and just simply drag and drop another one out here. Like we saw at the beginning, I'll just grab the drag handles, make some quick adjustments to this to kind of get it where I want. And then I'll finally drag this into place. And I feel like I've got a pretty good shape for a concept right here.
Yeah, Jeremy, I mean, it's looking pretty good, but as I'm starting to think about how we're going to make this water resistant or waterproof, we need a little bit more detail here. I mean, probably a split, shell it out, where the PCB has to go inside somewhere. We need some more like parametric CAD type features, right?
You're absolutely right, Michael. You know, Xshape is great for creating those organic shapes, free-flowing designs. It's very push-pull type thing. But we want to start thinking about traditional CAD. And here's where these 3D design tools on the platform are really cool. I'm going to go ahead and just from my compass in the upper left-hand corner, I'm going to pick a different 3D modeling app. This one's Xdesign. And you'll see almost instantaneously the toolbars on the bottom change to more traditional features that SolidWorks users would be familiar with. So Xdesign allows me to add those parametric type features. In this case, in Xshape, I created some surfaces. So I'm going to start out by kind of knitting those, turning those into solids. And then this will let me do some basic Boolean operations to kind of merge these together. And now that I've got a watertight solid, let's start adding some features that we would expect to see on a part like this. I needed to add a fillet between where these two bodies merge together. And then, as you mentioned, thinking about manufacturing, I've probably got to shell this part out to contain all of the components. Likewise, I'm probably going to want to split this. We can't, injection mold this as one single part, so I'm going to need to cut this in half. So what's really cool about these 3D design apps is not only the fact that they're running in the browser and I can work on them from basically anywhere with an internet connection, it's my ability to swap between tasks that solve my specific needs as I do this. So that's what's really kind of cool about this whole process as we go through here. So think about the future and different tools that may become available. One of the things I mentioned, maybe rendering, model-based definition, stuff like that. It's limitless what we'll be able to do with this and solve specific problems.
Yeah, Jeremy, you mentioned specific needs. I have specific needs. I need to get your data and I need to validate it.
Well, before you do that, Mark had set me a task. So what I'm going to do is I need to say I'm done with my job before you start your job. So I'm just going to go back up while we're still here in the browser. I'm going to review the task, and like Mark did, all I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to drag this to the finished state. Now, I'm pretty much finished with a concept in a rough state, but like you said, Michael, I need a little bit of help validating this to make sure this part's going to work.
I'm your man. I can help you.
All right.
Even Mark set up some tasks for me.
All right.
So in leveraging some Innovia technology to do so. And we've seen some great SolidWorks technology. Great job on the initial design, Jeremy. Thank you for putting that together. But what really we want to do as we move this design forward, and one of the design requirements is making this water resistant, right? So as you're hanging out in your hot tub, Jeremy, watching your big screen TV, if you drop the remote in, is it going to survive, or are we going to need to make another remote control for you? So this is where, building on this Innovia technology, the SolidWorks technology, I'm going to be using some Simulia technology to do this concurrent validation on our design. Specifically, structural simulation engineer, or what I'm going to be calling SSE.
But hold on. So we've used all these different tools. How are you going to use my data that I just worked on?
So all of these things, as we've seen already, are connected with the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. And I'm going to be leveraging that same platform to do these validation tasks. So not only is it connected, but we're using some top tier technology to run these simulation tasks. So Mark, thanks for the work.
All right. Anytime.
So let's take a look at how I'm going to find your data. I'm going to open it, and how I'm going to start setting up the study. And it's actually going to be very easy. Similar workflow that we've seen already, getting into Xshape and Xdesign. So running 3DEXPERIENCE, I can just hit that search at the top for that remote control. I can open it up and visualize that CAD data that you put together. Now, some additional CAD work's already been done, Jeremy, for creating that lip groove, creating a little recess, and inserting an O-ring. So I think this is the concept that I want to do and help validate for that water resistance. But right from that CAD data, I go into my simulation app, and I have a few options of the different simulation types I can create. We just need a structural one in this case. And I'm on my way to creating my simulation study. And this gives us a similar tree if you've used any other simulation tool before. Setting up the model, setting up the scenario, loads, boundary conditions, those sort of thing, and then getting into our results. So let me take a step further and show you what it looks like to do so. One of the first things you often ask is, looking at this design, is what exactly do I want to analyze? What am I concerned with? For making this thing waterproof, do I need to solve the PCB board? No. So let's see what it takes to look like to select what components we want and then meshing those.
Okay.
So it's actually going to be very easy. SSE gives you the structure to pick and choose from that same CAD structure that we saw, you create. I can pick and choose what geometry I want. So we get that tree, I got checkboxes, I'm only interested in those 3 components. So let's move on to meshing those 3 components. And while I do have a default mesh set up for each of these, the last one is for the O-ring. And for this type of nonlinear material, it's going to behave differently than the plastic components. I'm going to use a brick element. And I can actually just pick it. It recognizes the faces to sweep it through. So I specify my size requirements. So I get a nice mesh purpose-built for this rubber material. Now, you may be wondering, what about the contact faces and the mesh associated with those? Sure enough, I can add local refinements as necessary, and at the end, I kind of get something that I think I'm ready to move forward with.
It looks like you have an interference here, and that's typically a problem when using simulation tools, isn't it?
Yeah, so what I want to show you next is getting into this scenario setup, because this is where we're going to answer this interference question, contacts, loads, boundary conditions type setup. And actually what we have here, let's take a look. Sure enough, I do have that interference, and I actually do already have some of the boundary conditions set up. But specifically regarding that interference and regarding contacts in general, we can just initialize and just recognize throughout the entire model, hey, if there's any interferences, solve this as a shrink fit.
It's simple as that. Like I
don't
don't have to
go
do any of that.
No, I don't have to go in, select different faces. So it's very easy, very simple, and very powerful. And then I can go and solve my study. And here's the other huge advantage, is not only can I pick and choose this to solve locally, I can also send this job to run on the cloud.
This way, if Mark has more tasks for you to start working on, you can keep working on your tasks, right?
So there's this design project. I'm involved with dozens of others. That you had one dashboard, I've got 12, right? To jump into these different jobs to keep all my simulation projects organized. So we can let that simulation run and get some results, and begin some of the post-processing. So that's what I want to show you next, is doing some of that post-processing here. But one of the big challenges coming up is, how am I going to share this information with you guys as a team, with my simulation manager to help make sure that I set it up right, if I made any assumptions I shouldn't have, so I can come in and create additional plots that I want to start sharing. If that's contact pressure, the strain in the rubber material, if there's any stresses or displacements in those plastic parts, is this thing going to work? And we're able to use SSE to do this initial early validation connected to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform.
So as your project lead, I don't have access to SSE, so how do I get to see all this?
Yeah, so that's what I'm actually publishing now, and I'm doing some additional tasks here so that we can get a little bit more detail here, specifically creating a sensor to take a look at what is that contact pressure as it's solved, right? So this is very powerful, and I could share this as a traditional report, like a Word document or a PowerPoint, but we can also leverage 3DEXPERIENCE. I can create experience content. So I go in and pick and choose exactly what I'm after. So if I want validation, help to validate the mesh I set up, etc., it's right there for me, and I can easily share it. So that syncs automatically to the same data that I opened,
right?
Where it came from, straight from 3DEXPERIENCE. So getting back to complete the task that Mark had set up for me, I have this simulation result associated with that. So in our next design review meeting, we just go into our group of tasks for the project, and I can load it up right here. So similar to 3D play that we saw earlier, I can jump in and validate some of these results, look at not only the contact pressure, displacements, etc., but I have full access to the mesh, the detailed information on those elements that are used. But if we want, and also the mesh quality, right? Because the Simulia technology knows if you've got good elements, bad elements, to say, maybe you need a little bit more refinement there, Jeremy. It lets you know. But also with that sensor I mentioned earlier, this is very powerful as you're doing, some of these nonlinear materials and want to get good reaction forces to perform some of these tasks and get these results. We can visualize them right here on the platform. And this is, we talked about taking this and sharing it to the swim community.
Sure.
Right.
So you're gonna share it.
Exactly. So we can come in, mark up different areas to say, yeah, this is our contact pressure region, and we can start to have a little bit of a dialogue on swim.
But I got a problem. I left the office already, and I know this job is really important. So how do I stay in touch with the rest of the team?
Well, so as we see in the video here, I'm able to share it to the community, and we can visualize that information on that post. But like in your situation, what if I want more?
Right. Yeah, I need to access this. I needed to know as soon as this was finished.
Yeah.
Right?
So right here, we're on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. I have a tab already set up to visualize some of these results. I can simply share it to you, and you have access to visualize the same information either from your desktop or, as you mentioned, when you're on the go. I can visualize that straight from my phone in this case, and it's full 3D. We're not just sharing pictures to our swim community. we can actually have in-depth conversations, visualizing the full kind of experience report.
Yeah, again, we're all over the world.
Yeah.
We're always staying in touch. This is great. You can share that. And Mark gets it after hours because he's 5 hours ahead of us,
Yes.
and he gets notified
Get the
right away,
best.
right? So speaking of, we've kind of wrapped up our work here, right?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, I've been able to easily find your information, perform my analysis, share my results. But where do we go next, Mark?
Yeah, I mean,
We completed our tasks.
yeah,
Yeah.
you started on the desktop. We did all of our stuff here kind of in the web browser.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
So I need to do some work, don't I? So yeah, there's some great work there on that design. So what we'll do next is, how do I get that information? So
Sure.
I had a very early version of the design, as you saw, just the initial component layout. So let's take a look at how I get that information back into my SolidWorks session. So back in SolidWorks then, so you can see I've got my initial design, and it's simply just a case of just updating my local copy. So now if I just get the latest revision, that's just going to update my local
That's
SolidWorks,
simple.
as simple as that. So now I've got that solid body, or that remote body that you've designed. I could add more features to it if I wanted to in SolidWorks. So take full advantage of all of SolidWorks' modeling capabilities. But what I'm going to do here is release it for manufacture. So I talked a little bit earlier on about, you know, setting up a workflow if you want to work that way. So here you can see we've got our own little design workflow, and I'm going to set these now to released. So as you can see now in the property manager, the task pane, that's now set all those parts.
And they're locked
and
down.
they're
Nobody
locked
can
down.
change
Yeah, so
them.
you can vary the permissions at different states. And then finally, still within inside SolidWorks, using the task pane, I can just go back to my tasks and drag and drop that final design task release for manufacture to do. So you can access all of these different web apps from, you know, within inside your SolidWorks session as well.
So we're kind of at this point where we want to start thinking of manufacturing. We've got kind of a finished part here, and we already have this big ecosystem of SolidWorks components. So we've done some stuff in the platform. How do we continue to leverage all of our existing design tools?
Well, that's right. Now we're kind of back in SolidWorks. You can take full advantage of the complete SolidWorks ecosystem. So on something like this design, we might want to do a plastic flow study, find out if the part's going to fill or not as we're designing the mold. We could even add our toolmaker into the design community and actually share the design information with them, and then go ahead and obviously use SolidWorks to design the complete mold tool, and then take that all the way through with tools like SolidWorks CAM and actually create all the CNC programs that are required to machine the mold and make the part.
This is great. So I have a question for you, Michael. So we're seeing all these really cool tools here, the ability to go to the platform, come back. Why didn't you just use SolidWorks simulation to do that if it's so easy to like work with those files there?
Well, you know, part of my answer is having everything connected early, right? And we're able to utilize 3DEXPERIENCE platform, use some of these design apps, use the simulation apps to do this early, and being able to do that early validation as I showed. But absolutely, right? Especially for a SolidWorks user, you have SolidWorks simulation. If you set up a study already, we have a connector that will reuse all that information, the boundary conditions, the materials that you've set up, and bring that straight to SSE to really speed up the process of setting up that study earlier. So I'd encourage the folks at home watching this live, or if you're watching a recording, go to blogs.solidworks.com to see some of those blog posts on Simulia SSE and get a little bit more information on how that connector works.
Yeah, so we've kind of gone through this whole concept to finish part, kind of completely collaboratively. Obviously, we're all here in the studio together, but when we did work on this, we're located all over the world. Like I mentioned, you're in Seattle, you're in the United Kingdom, I'm in the Midwest. This was a very powerful tool for us to actually create this presentation. So let's kind of walk through what we did. Let's kind of go from beginning to end here really quick.
Yeah, so we started off by looking at the power of design communities and the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. So we were looking at sharing ideas, creating new ideas for our TV remote control. And then we looked at taking that initial concept design from SolidWorks, and then sharing that with everybody in the design team. And then we reviewed that design using 3D Play, and then we set you off on your first design task.
Yeah, you gave me a task. It was really easy for me to find the files. I used some of the integrated right in the web browser 3D design tools, and you saw it was really easy for me to switch between the different tools to solve the specific 3D modeling tasks. And then as I was done with those, I kind of kicked off my part of the project, and you already had a task set up for Michael.
Yeah, so I was able to leverage some of that Simulia technology, very powerful simulation capabilities there, but connected nonetheless. Breathe that right in, get my work done, and share the results on 3D Experience platform to really facilitate that design review.
Yeah, and I think the coolest part is how you wrapped it up, Mark.
Yeah, that's right. Then we closed off the loop. So we brought all of those design changes back into SolidWorks, where we could, do more modeling if we wanted to, and then really take advantage of the complete SolidWorks ecosystem. So, look at plastic simulation, the tooling design, the tooling manufacture.
Yeah, it was a really exciting story. We have a little bit more to cover here, but before we do, keep in mind we will be answering some questions as we get to the end here. I see we have some really good questions here, which we're going to get to answering. But before we do that, I'd like to invite Aaron Kelly. Aaron, welcome, product portfolio manager for the SolidWorks. Welcome.
Hey, Aaron.
Thank you very much. Thanks to everyone online for viewing as well.
Yeah, so I mean, we saw a lot of cool stuff, kind of a workflow that we use to collaboratively share these ideas with people. But what can you tell us about the future direction of the 3D Experience platform?
Sure. So the first thing I want to say, tremendous demo scenario. It was wonderful. I love watching videos of the product. Some kids like video games. I like watching design workflows. Anyway, let's start with the title, because it hit me when I saw the title of your presentation here. 3D Experience for SolidWorks engineers. And it got me thinking. SolidWorks' initial mission was to put the power of 3D on every engineer's desktop. And we focused primarily on CAD, right? We introduced innovations like top-down design on Windows, configuration management, dynamic assembly motion. I may be dating myself. If we go to the latest release, we talk about the performance enhancements to work with massive assemblies. But we know that product development isn't always about CAD, and it isn't all CAD. There's more people involved. There are more workflows and processes involved, and we want to work on that. So we want to not change our focus, but I would rather say expand our focus. So not just on SolidWorks for the engineer and designer, but on tools that helps everyone. So SolidWorks is going to continue to get great enhancements, but it's also going to continue to be connected to the 3D Experience platform. And as you guys did a great job of showing, there are a lot of tools today, and the 3DEXPERIENCE.works, which maybe we'll talk about that portfolio a little bit more in depth, is evolving. And what you're going to see is more tools in areas like visualization, PLM capabilities, collaboration, manufacturing. Okay.
So this is kind of a fantastic new way of working for everybody. So how would you contrast how designers are working today with how they're going to be working in the future?
This is exciting. The reason this is exciting is because we have specific things that we're targeting. So when we hear the word collaboration, it's very broad, right? So let's take it down and let's talk specifically about a couple of things. One is email and two is meetings. Those are two things that I think all SolidWorks users are familiar with, right? Anyone in business is familiar with. Now, first of all, email. Email is not 3D ready. It's not 3D capable, right? There are people adding attachments to email, sending them around the world. We don't know which version of the model or the drawing is being sent. We don't know where the IP is in the world. So it's kind of inefficient. Also adding to the inefficiency is there's a lot of people that were unlucky and weren't added to that email string, right? How many times do you take an email string and then add it to and then send it to someone? So there's missed information. It's very, very inefficient. What you guys showed today with the communities is a perfect example of how things will change in the future. So instead of coming into the office, hitting their email, trying to scan what they missed or what have you, they can open up their browser, just as you guys showed, and have everything in front of them. All the information, 3D capable. I can view things. I can spin them around. I have the information when I need it, wherever I need it. And not only is it for the CAD users, it's certainly for the non-CAD users, as you showed in your scenario today. The second thing is meetings. Meetings are tough, right? We have meetings all day. When are you supposed to do your work? And so meetings are a challenge in how we are going to address that with the 3D Experience platform. Again, with communities, right? So communities, you can raise issues without meeting in a room, right? You don't have to fly around the room, come to a room and discuss an issues. You can do it online. You can also update people. You had a great example of a project plan where you said things to do, they're completed, in process. And a lot of meetings, people have standing meetings to try to get updates to projects. And now with a simple glance of a website, you have all that information. So there's going to be less need for meetings.
Yeah. So we saw a collection of different technologies from not only SolidWorks, but Innovia and Simulia. And we saw a little bit of this for those of you who either watched the live cast of SolidWorks World, or if you were able to join us in Dallas, Texas earlier this year. But we heard about 3DEXPERIENCE.works. Tell us more about 3DEXPERIENCE.works.
Okay. So 3DEXPERIENCE.works, best way to describe it is a portfolio, and it's evolving. And it's a portfolio of apps defined by roles that these apps come from different resources from Dassault Systems. Let me take a second to talk about Dassault Systems. It's a pretty large company.
A little bit.
And there's lots of brands, and there's lots of apps that are being used around the world. And we're going to leverage those apps, and all those apps, just to reiterate, are all connected on that platform. The data is a unified data model. So the 3DEXPERIENCE.works is this evolving portfolio that we're going to offer SolidWorks customers that's going to give them more capabilities than they ever had before. Let me take just a second to kind of look at that name, 3DEXPERIENCE.works. When I think about 3D Experience, I think of the future. I think of scalability, connectivity, collaboration, and specifically the 3D Experience platform. And that 3D Experience platform, again, has multiple apps all connected in unified data model. When I think about .works, I think about that as our heritage. I think about affordability, accessibility, usability, kind of the experience of SolidWorks. And when you put those two words together, those two worlds together, it can be transformational, really transformational. And in a way that's really just going to weave into a company's existing culture and not contrast it. It's an exciting time to be a SolidWorks user.
Indeed.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we have tools that allow us to communicate and work together better. And I've been in this industry for 20 years, and it's never been easier to kind of collaborate with my team.
Yeah, I think what we've known all along, many of us are engineers and worked in design. We knew that CAD wasn't the only thing, but we focused on it. We did a great job at it. And now it's time. And because of the 3D Experience platform, we're capable of extending to more people in different workflows and the product development process.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Aaron. We have a lot of questions here that have been kind of coming through. Some of them have been answered by our staff who's kind of behind the cameras. I just kind of want to go through a few of these, some highlights we picked out here. So some of these are technical, and that's all right. Our team's fairly technical people, so we'll answer these the best we can. Sean Talley from YouTube asks, so when a user modifies a model that originated within SolidWorks environment on the cloud, say in Xdesign, do those modifications and changes come back into SolidWorks parametrically? So what we showed here was the ability to upload a SolidWorks model. We were able to add components to that assembly structure, and when we brought them back down, we were able to see those changes propagated as we went through there. So there is this ability. I've heard the word tossed around, coexistence. We want all of our products to work together. You talked about a unified data model in all the 3D Experience products, and we're really focused on making sure that that experience is as seamless as possible as you're going through there. So really cool technology we're using there. We then have Hirsch D on YouTube ask the question, can you roll back to a previous version of a design if somebody messes something up? Happens all the time. One of the things we actually didn't show, and it's unfortunate, we probably should have, was revisions inside of the 3D Experience platform. One of the things we could have done while we were doing that design is it's a click of a button, create a branch or a revision off of that part. And it's really simple for me to go on and make designs, and then Mark could have said, no way, I don't like this design, and we could have simply rolled back to a different revision. So you're absolutely right. Now, the next question is about the show itself. Do we go live regularly, and what's the next schedule? And this is a great question. So we're going to be we'll wrap this up at the very end. I'm not going to finish just yet here, but we will be coming live several times throughout the year. Our next event will be on May 8th, where we're going to be talking about SolidWorks for electrical engineers. So keep that in mind. And then the last couple things here. These are just some great questions. We get Mike Daly from YouTube says, great concept. Can't wait to try it out. Having the desktop power with the flexibility, mobility of having it in the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. And Mohammed, I'm not going to try to pronounce that, on YouTube says, powerful and awesome and so easy. Absolutely right. So I want to thank everybody for joining us here today. Michael, Mark, Aaron, but most importantly, everybody here at home. So stay tuned. We're going to be coming to you, as I mentioned, we're going to be coming to you live throughout the course of the year. Our next event is going to be May 8th, where we're going to be showing SolidWorks for electrical engineers. You're going to be able to find that content on live.solidworks.com, on our Facebook page. Make sure you like us to get notifications, and on YouTube, where you can subscribe and hit the bell notification icon so that when we go live, you'll get notifications when we do this in the future. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody kind of here for coming together and sharing this cool concept with all of our customers at home.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Jeremy.
Until then, we'll see you next time.